I'm Jeff Cronenfeld. I'm the Capital Reports Coordinator for the Arizona Capital Times. If you ever need anything with LOLA, I'm your person to reach out to. My information is on the bottom of the LOLA site, which I'll show you in a sec, and that's also my direct email. But let me share my screen and get into this training session. So here you can see this is what we call the LOLA dashboard. And when you initially log into LOLA, this will be what you see. Hold on, just move that out of the way. I'm going to start the training with a quick overview of the dashboard, and then I'm going to dig into some more, into more specific functions. That's probably the most interest for folks. So I'll just kind of start with the top of the site and move on down. This is this icon up here. You can always click this to return to the dashboard from any page. And these two top bars in the search function can also be accessed from any page. Moving along, this is one way to access a list of all your tracking lists. There's also other ways to do that. LOLA has a lot of parallel construction, so there's multiple ways to do different things. We'll go more into the tracks later, but I just wanted to point that out. This is the announcements. It won't always appear here, but it will when there's either upgrades made to LOLA or when there's LOLA specific news. For instance, we started the 2024 session a few weeks ago. So this is letting people know, we started it when pre-files began. This is my settings. There's a bunch of different stuff you can control through here, like your alerts, pretty much everything you can kind of access through there. But I'm gonna go into that more a little later. I'm just gonna finish this overview. Here's another drop-down menu that allows you to access a bunch of different settings and stuff. And this button can collapse or expand the search option from any page. It allows you to do quick searches here. You can search by bill number, word, or phrases in quotes. You can click here to kind of understand how the searches work. You can also search by ARS titles, the categories that we assign. There's two sorts of categories in LOLA. There's the categories we assign to bills when we summarize them. We provide bill summaries for every bill, and those are custom things that we do. They're not just the descriptions of the bill. And we try to basically distill it to sort of the most important information about that bill in the simplest language possible and without any political spin. You can also, search sponsors, legislators who sponsor bills, news items. You can search back to the 2022 session currently. So if you want to search some of these other sessions, you can modify that there too. And you can access the advanced search functions here, which I'll go more into later. Continuing down through the dashboard. This is our legislator kind of drop-down menu. You can access all the page that houses all the different individual legislators and then get through to their legislator pages. There's also some tools for emailing legislators, either individually or in different groups. This is similar, but for committees. This is a list of all the votes from a session and how everybody voted. And this is a custom tool for creating kind of scorecards to evaluate how legislators vote based on parameters you set. It's kind of a fun one. There'll be some upgrades coming to this too, but I'm going to go into this a little later. This is the Bills and Laws tab. You can access the Daily Journal, which is one of the alerts you can get. It's basically a digest of all the legislative activity from the previous day. This is all the people or organizations that have testified before the legislator, and we have a big list of them, and you can see the date and time and position and what bills they spoke for or against. This is our striker amendments page that allows you to see all of the strikers, both proposed and adopted, and kind of access different information on them. You can also see information on strikers on the individual legislation pages. This is kind of a news and media tab that lets you see some of the press releases and news stories from some of our other products. Like to look at an AZ Cap Time story, you'll still need a subscription there. So this is more just a way to kind of access the titles and click through to pages if you so desire. And the rules and regs page is like a schedule of different state regulatory bodies and sort of other state agency meetings that are open to the public, and kind of just a calendar of those if that's sort of relevant for you, and you can kind of go in and check them. There's a couple different tables. Moving on to the tiles. I know I'm going fast. We have a lot to cover. So if anybody has any questions, please just let me know. It's a little hard. It's just me today, so it's a little hard to monitor, to chat, and do this. So just feel free to pipe up if you have any questions. And I am going to go into some of these functions more as we continue. So these are the two calendar tabs, or two calendar tiles, and they work in concert together. And basically, this is a list. This is a calendar of all the kind of committees and other meetings scheduled at the legislature itself. Days that have activities scheduled will appear in blue, except for the day you're currently selected on, which appears in gray. We're on the 18th, and there are not any committees scheduled today at the legislature. But if we go to 19, you can see over here that there's a House Ethics Committee that's meeting at 9 a.m. So you can add this to an internal LOLA calendar called My Agenda by clicking this. And then if you kind of press that My Agenda button, you'll see this here. You can also add these to external calendar apps by clicking these little icons. It supports Google, Apple, and Outlook, which is the Microsoft application. And you can kind of go through future and into the past and click into different days and see that. This is the session at a glance tile. It provides a quick overview of when the legislature is going to next be meeting, or when it's scheduled to meet next. Obviously, that is subject to change based on the whims of the legislature. Though it's pretty usually, if they say they're going to meet at a certain time, they do. There's occasional changes though. It also lists what day we are currently on in the session, all of the bills that have been posted, and a bunch of other information about the bills. Now, these buttons are orange, so you can click them and automatically go to a list of all those bills. So you can see these are all the pre-files so far. It has been a busy December for pre-files. We already have 63 bills filed, and I don't know, we may actually get may break the pre-file record this year. We'll see. Continuing on down the page, this is the All Bills title, which similarly lists all of the bills. Again, you're seeing that parallel construction. It just lists them all here. You can scroll through them. This will get to be a very big list by the end of session. Again, we may end up with a record number of legislation items filed. I mean, there's no way to know, but I think it's a possibility this year. You can also, kind of filter this with a few different things. You can just do House bills, Senate bills, the current day's bills. And you can also affect the sort order from oldest to newest, or newest to oldest. You can also navigate to the All Bills pages, which is kind of an expanded version of this with a few more capabilities by clicking this button. And that's kind of a general rule for these tiles, is that you can kind of do quick access, but then get to a slightly expanded page here. This is the upcoming hearings tile. So basically all of the hearings they're going to be coming up are going to be listed here. You can click in, when there are hearings scheduled, and I think it's like a week out. So when there are hearings scheduled for that, you'll see them here, and it'll list them, and you can click through. And you can also, again, just like here, you can just see hearings that have bills you're tracking before them if you so desire. Moving on to the daily alert tile. The daily alerts, I'm going to go into when I finish this kind of quick dashboard overview. But the daily alerts are a way to get a bunch of different updates directly in your email, and these are custom alerts. This is the difference between the daily alert and the daily journal. The daily journal is a digest of all activity. The daily alert is fully customizable, so you can kind of get updates on really whatever you want. And this is actually something too, we have some upgrades planned to give you even more custom ability here. And we're going to go into that a little more in a bit. But again, you'll see the number of items here, and you'll be able to click into them when they have there. And you can also click into pages with a little more info there. You can also change the dates to kind of see, different days activity. These are all three tiles to kind of help you jump back into workflow if you get interrupted by a meeting or a phone call or something of that nature. These are going to be a list of all the bills you've recently viewed. And it's kind of a complete list that goes back for the whole session. This is going to list all your recent searches. And this is going to be all your saved reports. And we're going to go into reports more later. Again, you can click back into the bills here. You can click back into the bill pages here as well. And you can click back into those search results or to these report results here. And those reports are live. So like if you say searched housing and additional housing bills come up, that will be reflected in that search if they're live searches. Now, and kind of the final tile on the page is My Tracks. This is going to be a list of all your tracking bills. There's actually a bunch of ways you can interact with the tracking lists from this tile. You can click into the tracking list here. You can generate a report using that tracking list. You can edit the tracking list. You can delete it. And you can create new tracks here. And then at the very bottom, you can see this is my phone number, and this is an email that go to me and a few other people. So if you're ever having issues, feel free to reach out to me through this or my email or give me a phone call. We're also going to be rolling out a Zendesk feature soon. I don't know exactly when that's going to be implemented, and that'll just be, you've probably seen them on other websites. It's just a little pop-up that if you want to shoot us a message, you can kind of do it directly through that, and we can do a little chat. And I'm going to go into show you a little bit about alerts now. So if you go to the My Account link under your username, under this drop down, you're going to be able to see your alert settings. So this is the daily alert, which I was telling you is kind of a custom thing, and it's going to go out to you at 7 a.m. every morning. You can add your email here. You can also add other emails. Say if there's like a client or a colleague that you would also like to get these alerts, you can add them on a big list here, and I don't believe there's a limit. And they'll kind of get an email little digest that'll show them that stuff. The way you control your daily alert settings is down here under daily alert settings. So you can get alerts on keywords, citations from the ARS. These categories are categories, right? The are assigned categories. You can get alerts on specific legislators and alerts on specific committees. And yeah, I don't know. So that's a list. Obviously, there's a lot of categories because there's a lot of different kinds of legislation that goes through. And we do tag everything with multiple categories, just so you know. And yeah, and we'll kind of go more into some of the committee and other folks' page soon. But this is the daily journal. That's the digest of all the activity from the previous day. Again, it's the same thing. It goes out at 7 a.m. and you can add yourself or as many other folks as you like. This is new text. So say you're tracking a specific piece of legislation and they introduce new text to that, you can get an alert on that. So if it can be important to monitor developments in the text of a bill, obviously. Again, you can add your or other emails here. This, you can actually control the frequency that you'll receive these. You can get them immediately, daily, and there's a few other kind of intervals that you can get it in. Action alerts is sort of the same thing. You can control the frequency, add other folks. And these are going to be if there's any action taken on a bill you're tracking. If it moves out of committee, if it gets assigned to a new committee, if there's a vote on it, yada yada, basically. Just any sort of legislative action, you will get alerts on that for your tracked bills. And the last one is chamber status, and that's basically just going to let you know when the chambers are meeting. So when they're about to kind of convene. And that completes this overview. I'm going to click here and go back to the main menu up here. And so I kind of told you a little bit about the search functions. You can search, by words, by word phrases enclosed in parentheses, by bill numbers. When you do search by bill number, you don't need to include the 2-letter preface here. Also, a little trick. You don't really need it because you can go here or here. But if you leave the search field blank and hit search, you'll get a list of all of the legislation from the session. Also, I'm going to cover the advanced search function real quick. So basically, it just gives you a bunch of other ways to customize your search parameters and allows you to apply like multiple filters to a search at once. You can kind of go through these. You'll see you can search by legislator, the categories, co-sponsors, different kinds of actions, keywords, tracked, whether it's tracked, specific tracking lists, and probably one of the most useful ones on this by specific date ranges. So say if you want to search all of the legislation from a particular week, I know a lot of folks use that. You could do that here, and you kind of go in and you select a day to start, you select a day to end. You can also search multiple bills at once. A quick note about this, though, you do need to include the two-letter prefaces for bills here, and you just want to separate your lists with a comma. Sometimes people get a big list from a client or something, and this is a way you can drop that in and pull up a list of those. And there's other ways you could do that too, but just wanted to show you. So now I'm going to kind of go into reports really quick. So let's just make a list of all the current pre-files because it's not too unwieldy yet. So here you go. Here's all of the pre-files. And this is kind of how the search results display. You can control how many bills you see. I'm just going to have them all show up here. This is all 63 of the pre-files. You can click into an individual you can kind of see this is the basic stuff that's displayed. Last action is the most recent legislative action on an item. Sort of a good quick reference to help you kind of see where a bill is in the legislative process. You can also click into an individual bill page here. I'll just do it real quick. This is what a bill page looks like. So history is going to show you all of the legislative actions for a bill. Obviously, it's not in session yet, so they were just introducing bills. Here you can see all the versions of the bill text. You can access them as an HTML doc or a PDF. And as new versions come, you'll still keep the old ones, the list here. And strikers will be included under amendments. So any amendments and striker amendments will be listed here. And again, there'll be links, just like there is here, there'll be links to the text of those. You can also check, get a list of citations from the ARS, the co-sponsors, the categories we've assigned. So we can see this is state government, right? The for against neutral positions, if people or organizations have registered for against neutral on this or offered testimony, and news stories or press releases related to it. Also, there's a bunch of functionality over here. So this bill is currently being tracked, but I could untrack it if I wanted to, and you can retrack them right there. You can also just pause alerts, so you'll keep it tracked, but you'll just pause your alerts on that particular bill. Say there's another piece of legislation that is of immediate interest, and you're trying to really focus in on there. That you could use the hold alerts function for that. You can also set positions on a bill, and these positions are only visible to you or other folks in your LOLA user group. They're not available to the public or other LOLA users. And you can set a position like for against neutral on a bill. And it can be useful for other folks in your organization if you're kind of trying to coordinate activity on a bill for them to know, where you stand on a big group. If there's a lot of bills coming up, you want to just tag them like that. You can also set the priority of a bill, depending on how important it is to the work you're doing. You can assign tasks, say, there's a range of tasks you can assign. I'll show you the list. Like you can ask for comments, which would kind of be like a thread you'll be able to see of like almost like a Facebook post, though it's not public, where you can see all the comments and responses. You could, and there's some other things you can assign to people. You can also assign your own custom categories, user-generated categories. So basically, you can create your own category name, add that bill to that category, or tag the bill with that category and save. A little trick: this is dead. So when a legislative item, when a bill kind of stalls out in the legislative process, we often will kind of mark them dead. Now that said, bills can seem dead for a few months and then they can kind of re-revive very suddenly or kind of unexpectedly, or there can be a striker that completely changes them. We're working on adding some additional tools for kind of automatically identifying dead bills, but it's very difficult because sometimes a bill, you know, for lack of another term, comes back to life. So, and we wouldn't want you to kind of miss that, but there are some upgrades coming in that regard. And we also have a collaborate function, which is a way, so, comments are a way to interact with other LOLA users in your LOLA user group. Comments are a way for you to interact with people who maybe don't have LOLA accounts. And so you can enter email addresses or individual emails. You can enter a message, and then those folks will receive an email that looks a lot like this. And then they can respond, and below this, you'll get kind of a thread of all the responses. And you can add new people to it. And it's say if you're trying to, you maybe want to consult outside counsel or a, subject matter expert on a piece of legislation. This would be a good tool for that. Now, let me get back to the reports. I'll kind of go into the reports more specifically now. So this is, again, that report of all the bills that have been introduced. You can download a list, Excel compatible list here. You can also generate a report by clicking this button. By default, you're going to generate a report of all these items. If you just want to select a few items to generate a report, you just click these boxes and then generate the report. Also, quick note, you can track or untrack bills here as well. So I'm going to generate a report with all of these items. By default, a report consists of the bill number, the short title, the sponsors, and the summaries. And these are our custom summaries. Some of them are going to be a little longer for more complicated pieces of legislation. We try to keep them short, though, short and sweet, and to focus on the most important things. But sometimes you have to get a little longer. Some of them can be a little complicated. You can click, but this is the default. However, the reports are highly customizable. If you click this formatting options tab, you can see all these different options that you can add to a report. I'm going to add all of these and then save so you can see what a fully built report looks like. You may not want all of these items, so you can kind of control what displays. And you can also then kind of just create, there's no limit to the number of reports you can generate. So you can kind of customize reports for specific functions. Maybe you could create a report for a specific client or something and kind of just have what's most pertinent to them on there. When you have the fully built reports, especially as you get further along in the legislature, it can get really big because you'll have all of the action history and stuff like that. There's also a few other things you can customize reports with. You can, control how they're listed, either from oldest to newest, newest to oldest. You can group them in a bunch of different ways based on tracking lists, those positions you set, the priority levels you set. Its progress through the legislative process. And this is a good way if you're also trying to ID bills that are maybe currently appear dead. You could kind of do them by progress and you can kind of see where they're at. And then you can also sort them by the user-generated categories, also called My Categories. You can also add logos to bills. And I think this accepts JPEG and PNG files. And you can make them shareable, which means it basically replaces what on the old LOLA system were called web reports. And you can share a URL with a client and they can see this report. And the difference between this and some of the other ways you can share reports that I'll show you in a moment is this is going to be live. So, as there's new actions or new amendments added to legislation, this will update that. Or if so this makes it live and as a way to share it. You can just share them that URL and they can click into it, even if they're not a LOLA user. So once you've set the parameters as you like, you want to hit save. Whenever you're making changes to lists or other things, you're normally going to want to hit save on LOLA. So just Try to remember that. That's an important thing. So here is a fully built um, report output for a bill. Now it's short right now, but as there's additional text versions and as there's more actions, right? These can get pretty big, just the individual ones. But right now they're pretty easily managed, and you can just see the additional stuff. These are the other things we've chosen to add. And if there's not something, you'll still see. If there's not content for a specific category you've added, a category in the report, you'll see that it's here but left blank. You can share these a number of other ways. You can print them, right? Um, and you can email them directly to folks through Lola. And you can also download them as Excel compatible or Word docs. We're also working on some additional outputs, like a plain text Word doc that'll be kind of a more compact presentation. So, keep your eyes on the announcements for further additions there. Now I'm going to kind of go into some of these functions a little more. And again, if anyone has questions, feel free to jump in. I'm going to show you the legislators page. So this lists all the legislators, their district, their contact information. You can also check out Senate members. You can also email legislators. So there's some contact tools at the top. And you can do all members of the House, the Senate, just Dems, just Republicans, or the individual caucuses for each body. But let's go back and look at an individual legislator's page. Let's look at Contreras today. Or maybe I should choose someone that has actually introduced legislation. Let's Who has? I'm just trying to remember who's introduced legislation.
Gail Griffith.
Griffin, yes, our winner of the most legislation introduced. I think she's at 30 items. She's got the most pre-files so far. Thank you for that. So you can see here, there's her biography. These are pulled directly from Alice. So a little background information on Lola. We add a bunch of information and tag and update information, but we also automatically pull information from the state legislature's database system, which is called Alice, who we kind of consider like, Lola's little sister or something, right? And so we automatically scrape information from there. So this bio comes from there. This is her official bio. And that's true for a lot of the legislative items and other stuff as well. And so we're kind of live updating. So as soon as it goes live on that website, it goes live on Lola within, maybe a minute or two. You can add comments about a legislator the same way you do with a bill. And again, these would only be visible to your Lola user group family, not to other people. You can also make the report private and control, say, if only you or if there's specific people in your group you want to see them, you can modify them in that way. You can see what committees they're part of. Committee assignments haven't formally been announced. They are basically, well, the House, I think there's still a little shifting going on. I think the Senate has pretty much locked it in, but these don't go live until they drop that on to Alice in probably the first week of January, I believe. That's what I've been hearing. Here's a list of all the legislative items a legislator has introduced. You can generate a report of this list. You can click into the individual bill pages, and you can click into the legislators page, which would be a little redundant, obviously, a little recursive. And you can control tracking a legislator. You can also track a legislator here. You can see what they co-sponsored. You can see a list of their votes, news items about them, etc. A kind of a map of their district. But you can also, there's some data tools you can click to here right? Like who they vote with, which is going to be, the people they vote the most, they vote in that they have the similar votes to, people that they co-sponsor with and their effectiveness. And those are just going to jump you down to these tools. You can also just scroll down. So this would show, say if Griffin voted with another legislator a bunch, you'll see them up top and the person they have the least affinity with at the bottom. You can see who they co-sponsor with most frequently, and you can see their effectiveness at advancing bills, through the chamber. Um, so that kind of completes. Oh, and you can also access their assigned assistant or staff person. Here you can email them, and if there's a change you notice we haven't made, sometimes people leave or get shifted around during the session. We try to update that as much as possible, but we also rely on folks to help us. But this can be a good thing. Sometimes the legislators themselves don't, aren't quite as on top of their inboxes. So if you need to get some information quick, reaching out to a staffer could be a good way to do that. Continuing on to the bills and laws page, that daily journal, which is a digest of the previous day's activity, you can get it emailed to you, but you can also access it directly on the website by clicking this. This is that for against neutral page I mentioned a few times earlier. And this is going to be anyone who's registered to testify for or against a bill. Right now it's kind of showing this is sort of aggregate, so it's not just this session, it includes previous sessions, so you can kind of see people's history of responses. So say the city of Scottsdale, they've offered opinions on 62 items. You can see the date they offered the opinion, who spoke on their behalf, who that person, the organization they're affiliated with or speaking on behalf of, the bill number, and the opinion. You can also see an individual's page, the individual speakers page. Normally, Lola's, when I'm streaming this, Lola's a little slower. It's much faster when you're just using it yourself. So you can just see an individual, here, and it's very similar. So, continuing down this, let's look at, let me show you the committees pages and some stuff like that. So this is very similar to the legislators page, and you can basically see all of the committees listed, all the different kinds of committees, onto the votes. So this is all of the legislation, from the previous session, and you can kind of see what chamber, the bill title and number, or just the bill title, or no, yeah, it's got the number too, the date, kind of a quick description, the voting results when that went to vote, all here. And it's just a big list of that. You can, kind of a quick reference to see how different things had fared. Obviously, you can do that through individual legislation pages, but if you want to look at a bigger kind of a 10,000 foot view of legislation, you can do that here. You can check the Senate. You can also, let me show you these scorecards. So these scorecards are custom reports that judge the affinity of a legislator's voting record based on parameters that you set. So what's that mean? That just means you have a big list of all the bills, and you click, I wanted this bill to pass. I didn't want this bill to pass. I had no position on this bill, etc. You can set it on just a few bills. You can set positions on all the bills. You can reset this. You can just do the House or the Senate. You can do all votes or preferred votes. And then, so once you have your parameters set here, you generate a scorecard. And this scorecard is going to show all of the legislators and how they voted, from a particular body. This is the House. If the square is green, that means their position lines up with your position. If the square has a minus sign in it, that means they voted no. If it's a plus, they voted yes. So a green plus means they voted yes and you wanted a yes. A green minus means you wanted no and they voted no. A non-highlighted square means they didn't vote in affinity with that position. And then it generates a percentage. So you can see for the bills, the 10 bills we set, they voted in affinity with us 60% of the time. And so this is a good way to identify legislators who are maybe potentially aligned with your interests or good people to collaborate on things, right? Because they have a high affinity. On the bottom of the list, you'll see people who voted, who had no affinity with the positions you set. And those maybe could be some of these lower lists could be people who maybe you want to watch out for, who could be potential, him up things that you're working on. And then this table, you can see these columns correspond to different pieces of legislation. Um, and you can click here to get more info on that, or you can just scroll down and you can see number one is SB 1244, et cetera, and you get a little quick info there. Now back to the bills and laws page. I'm going to show you the striker amendments page. I'm sure most of you are familiar with strikers, but strikers are, we kind of get into striker season typically, maybe March, April. The legislature can no longer introduce new bills, but they can take, defunct bills or inactive bills and change what they're about completely. You could have a bill about water and you could change it to be about air quality or anything. And sometimes these can happen, late at night, and you can even end up having they can end up like changing them the night before and voting the next day. So it's something that you really want to monitor. So we have the striker amendments page that lists all of them. Um, and you will get alerted to that if you're tracking a piece of legislation. You'll get an alert, but maybe you're not tracking that legislation because it wasn't relevant to you before the striker. So this is why this page is useful. You can see all the approved strikers and all the proposed strikers, and you'll get a bunch of information here about them, and you'll be able to click in and get more information. And again, you can also access like the new text of the striker by going into that you'll be able to click the bill number here, go into that page, go into the amendments tab, and you'll see the striker amendments listed there.